welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I am, of course, your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 197th episode, our returning guest is Brandon Chapman. First heard Brandon Chapman on episode 14, where he appeared alongside Josh Sigler, and his solo appearances on episodes 97, 132, 157, and 166. Brandon Chapman is a sports podcaster who hosts a baseball coaches show, Swing Away, and Sounding Off, the latter of which I have been a guest on, and co-hosts Chap and Teach Take Me Back 90s, which I have also been a guest on, with co-host John Robertson, who also appeared on episode 183 of this podcast. Brandon resides in Peru, Indiana with his wife, Abby. He graduated from IUK in May 2018 with a BS in Communication with a concentration in Public Speaking. He was recently named the Indiana High School Baseball Coaches Association, IHSBCA, 2021 E-District Media Person of the Year. And now on to the show.
How old is the oldest now?
The oldest is 6, but in a matter of days, he'll be 7. So
No kidding.
less than a month, he'll be 7. I know, it's crazy.
And then you just had a baby last year.
Yeah, she just turned 1 in April. Couple of days, 2 days before my birthday. So, but yeah, she's the party animal though. She's the one that stays up until midnight, dancing around and screaming. So, she's like me though, but it makes sense since she's so close to my birthday. She's exactly like that.
I was going to say she gets that for bad.
I know, right? Speaking of which, you go to bed pretty early on the weeknights, huh? So.
Well, I'm up at 6. So,
okay, yeah, I get it. I'm not even up at 6, so.
Yeah, I'm up at 6. I got to open my store at 7. So.
Wow. Okay, gotcha. Understood. Well, thanks for doing this tonight. You don't have to work tomorrow, I guess.
No, vacation day, baby.
Cool. Excellent. Doing anything fun?
No, I'm actually going to. I'm meeting a buddy over at Tipton Pizza King. So that's the highlight of my day.
Gotcha. Hey, was there an earthquake today?
There was.
Okay. When did it happen?
Around like 3:20.
3:20. I must have been driving then, because I didn't feel it. Did it shake a lot?
So I was sitting at my desk working on some stuff on the computer, and my computer just starts shaking. And I was like, what is going on? And I could kind of feel like a rumble. And there had been some people working close to my shop, so like some like road work and stuff. So I didn't kind of think a whole lot about it. But like my computer monitor, it wasn't just like a shake, like it's like something hit. My computer shook for like 15, 20 seconds. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I see on Twitter that there was an earthquake west of Indy. So supposedly, our buddy Sigler, his in-laws up in Mishawaka said they felt it.
Wow. Okay. Huh. Yeah, I completely missed it. I did live in California for 3 years. I don't know if maybe I'm just like dead to it now, because there was one that was like a 5 when I was there that like it was like,
oh
boom.
wow.
I remember that. Like I was like, whoa, that was something. And there when I was a kid there was one. Ash, how old was that one when we were 3? So I was like 4, 5. Yeah, there was one I remember when I was a kid in Indiana, but yeah, not so much lately, but that's crazy though.
I remember in my early 20s, and I only remember this because my wife called me. We were just dating at the time. She called me and woke me up because there was a little mini earthquake or whatever here around Peru or wherever it was. And she's like, hey, did you feel that? And I go, no, I was sleeping. So this is my first earthquake. So
right.
In rural Indiana, making it 35 years old with my first earthquake, I'd say that's pretty good.
Right, yeah. Oh yeah, it's a deeply unsettling feeling though. I know exactly what it feels like, but that's crazy.
I didn't know you were in California for a bit. So tell me, a 5 must really kind of mess you up a little bit. Like you're like, oh shit.
It felt like somebody like ran their car into the building I was in. It wouldn't like knock me over or anything, but it was like boom, like everything like shifted, and it was like, oh man, that was serious. Like there was no like as soon as it happened, I was like, yes, I know exactly what that is. I didn't question it. I would always wonder like, was that an earthquake? And people are always like, no, that's not. Don't worry. When there's an earthquake in California, you will know.
Yeah, people in California know what.
Right. Exactly. No, there was buildings in California like the cafe. I lived in Ukiah, California. One of the buildings, that cafe or whatever. I remember from when I lived there, and I remember on the outside it said, "If there's an earthquake in this building, we are not responsible for what happens to you." Like, the masonry here is not earthquake safe. So you're here, and if there's an earthquake, it was nice knowing you. So.
So basically, they were saying out there, like you know how we drive here, and there'll be like
Yeah.
dump trucks that'll say, "Hey, we're not responsible for broken
Right,
windshields."
right.
You basically have buildings out there saying, "Hey, if we have an earthquake, we're not responsible for your
Yeah,
death."
exactly. This is a
Okay.
historical building, and you're responsible for your own safety in here.
Can we talk about how you can just slap a sticker on something saying you're not responsible, and apparently that's legal?
Yeah, right. I didn't know that was the way it was. I like how there's like the oversized load thing that comes down the highway, and then there's a house, and it's like, okay, I mean, how is that okay? Like it's oversized, so it's not supposed to be here. It's like you're
Like
not
they have nothing short of like a written sign, like almost like
right.
I mean, almost like a marker saying wide load, not
Yeah.
responsible. Like, how does that hold up in a court?
Abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
No shit. Lord.
But yeah. Anyway, thanks for coming back on the podcast, dude.
It's always a pleasure, man. I always get a kick out of every time you ask me. So
Yeah.
it's always enjoyable to me. I know I'm not your typical style or for your typical audience, but I do enjoy getting to talk to the guy who kind of helped me along. I always kiss your ass, but it's true. I will always tell people, that I picked your brain and got my start based off your assistance.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I don't take that for granted at all. And I just see the growth that you've had with what you're doing, and I see that I just feel like you're getting better and better at it, honestly.
Well, thank you, man. I really try.
Hmm. But yeah, your show has changed a lot over the pandemic, and obviously for other reasons too. But kind of tell me about how it is just being a solo host. This is, a new, you've turned a new leaf.
I was a little nervous in the beginning because for me, doing something solo is a huge, like, I mean, this, like when you're doing it solo, like it's on you. There's
Hmm.
nobody to help you along. If you fall flat, it's all you. There's nobody if you're diving, there's nobody to help you pull it up. So,
Hmm.
I always felt like I had the most dedication of my show amongst, who was participating. And it was like, I mean, so like if anybody was going to make it do anything, it was going to be me. So there was a little bit of nerves that way, but in the end, it was still doing the same thing of just like interviewing kids and interviewing coaches and stuff like that. The biggest thing for me was this spring. I was asked by some coaches to do like a baseball show because
Hmm.
nobody in the area does it. There's nobody doing a coach's show for high school baseball. That for me was okay. I can ask kids stupid questions. Like I can navigate kids into making a good conversation, and I can kind of be a little juvenile to an extent and make it work, no big deal. But here I am talking to other grown adults, coaches in positions and stuff like that. I was really nervous, like I didn't want to suck. So that was my biggest thing. Just every week, don't suck.
Well, you didn't suck. I was interested, and it was an interesting turn for the show too, because you have these kids come in, and they might be in one sport and multiple sports. You've had people in to interview for different sports that they're involved in, but if there's repeat, obviously we all know the three sport athletes among the high school students, and you have those on. But generally, you just talk to a team once a year, basically, if that. And here you had the unique challenge of talking to the same group of, like you said, coaches, not players, and it was going to be the same ones each week. So that's right there. That's another difference, right?
Right. And so for me, not all programs are created equal. I can't talk to the Western Panthers the same way I talk to a Tri Central. The Western Panthers were considered to be the best program in the area. Tri Central went winless. I
Mm,
can't ask them the same questions. I can't treat them the same
mm,
because they don't require the same interview. So each week was different based off the success of the team or what was going on, peaks and valleys. And I also had to make sure the coaches were engaged, not just answering the same thing every time. So I actually explained it to one of the coaches. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but they ended up naming me media person of the year for their region. Through
No,
the
forget that. Toot your own horn, man. That's great. That's an accomplishment.
so
Don't
I
take
was
any of that for granted.
I was the IHSBCA E-District Media Person of the Year. And so I was
Make
talking
them
to
say,
right. So I was talking to one of the coaches, and he's like, "Hey, man, we really appreciate what you do." And I was like, "Thanks, man." I kind of gave him that rundown. Like, I've always wanted to make sure it was engaging, and I wasn't asking you guys the same thing every week. I wasn't asking the same coaches back to back, the same questions, stuff like that. And one coach literally goes, "I had no idea about that." He's like, "I never would have thought of that. How you can't talk to us the same way as you would a rebuild versus a team that's reloading, that kind of stuff." And he goes, "It's all more reason on why you deserve the award." And I was like, "Dude, that's awesome. Like, and congratulations to you. I know you just got some awards for the newspaper and everything that you do." So it's really a humbling feeling when other people acknowledge that you're good at something. And for me, and everything that I've always done, I'm really uncomfortable when people tell me how much they appreciate what I do, because I don't think I'm good. I really don't. I'm self-deprecating to that regard, but I mean, I realize there's a niche. I realize I'm filling it. I'm realizing I know I'm personable. I know people like to talk to me. I know there's a comfort level there. I just don't want to sound stupid. And so that's always, I've never tried to get sound bites. I'm never trying to get like a gotcha journalism or anything like that. It's more like I think of it as like an expose or a highlight piece every time I interview a team. Sometimes sometimes things go really well. Sometimes things can kind of go off course a little bit. Either way, but the kids have fun. The kids get attention. I enjoy it, and everybody tells me how much they enjoy it. So I always get really uncomfortable when people tell me that. But at the same time, it's super nice to be recognized for what we do.
Let's not gloss over these awards. Of course, it's subjective. Of course, it's how judging the arts. You know what I mean? It's not like a sports event. It's just like what the other. But it is humbling, and it is an honor to be. And you mentioned these coaches are other grown people, so this is your peers. When your peers acknowledge you, it's really something else. I was telling Sigler the same thing. He was talking about how he's an award-winning journalist too, and shout out to him for that. But it is like something special. It's like I know I'm good at I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at, and what I'm good at is what I do. And it's nice for someone else to say, yeah, I agree, and I'm like, yeah, finally somebody said something.
Shout out to Sig, because I got to job shadow him quite a bit, and to see how he was a sports guy, and that's where I'm at, and you helped me with the podcasting format and how to operate that. He helped me with like how to ask how to really treat people, like how to ask the good questions. I watch professional journalists from like the New York outlets who are on TV and all this stuff, and I hear some of the questions they ask, and they should be fired. It is negligent.
Oh yeah.
And so to be able to learn from him the way he does things and how you do things, I think at the end of the day, we just want respect. We want the people that we're talking to respect us, and I want to show them the same respect.
For sure, 100%. And you mentioned not thinking you're good, and I think that means you have good taste. There's a Ira Glass quote about how everyone who ends up making something worthwhile hates what they do at first because they have good taste and they haven't achieved it yet, and they start getting better and better and getting closer to what they like. But at first, it's like, the reason you're not thinking it's good immediately is because it's like you have a vision, right? You know what you like, and what you think's good, and it's not quite there. But along the way, you're doing all the things you need to get where you're going.
Let me ask you: do you listen to your own shows?
Certain episodes, yeah, I have listened to a few times. Because
I think the reason that I say that I'm not good or whatever, I mean, I guess it's kind of twofold. Like, I know I ask good questions because I pride myself on that. Like, I put the work in. And so I feel, there's times I've been negligent and kind of mailed it in. And I feel like I cheat somebody when I do that. So these people are giving me they're giving me their time. They deserve my time and my work and my effort as well. But I guess I think I hate my voice. I hate listening to my voice. And so because like it's that old adage, like I know how I sound in my head. It is not how I sound on recording. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I hate listening to me, and so that's probably why I'm so critical of myself. But
Yeah.
I do know that I ask good questions. I have a good
Mm-hmm.
format. I have a good banter back and forth with people. I just don't like listening to myself.
Oh, yeah, no, the main thing I edit out of my shows is me talking in between when other people are talking. So I listen back, I'm like, dude, just next question, get on with it. Like I'm like and yelling at myself in post, like, come on, get to the point, Rob. But yeah,
Right.
I hate my own voice too. I notice all my verbal tics when I go back and edit myself. I'm probably gonna hear them right now when I'm editing this later. But yeah, but there are certain episodes I really do come back to. But yeah, some of it sometimes it's like once I experienced it when it was happening. That's enough.
Yeah, and I agree with you because I know how I conversate with people and I know how I interact. Like
Hmm.
someone could be talking and I'll sit there and just kind of like you just did. I'll sit there and go, as they're talking, like I'm
Right.
agreeing with them and everything like that. But in reality, like for me when I'm recording and stuff like that, I really pull that back. And
Hmm.
so with the way we do it now, doing it via Zoom and everything like that, like I'll see myself, I'll nod my head, like
Hmm.
I'm acknowledging all that stuff without saying it. And I
Hmm.
think that's been part of the transition for me. It's kind of been helpful too, because doing it, because they're seeing me as well. They can see me acknowledge what they're saying. They can see me agreeing with them or disagreeing with them or whatever. I don't have to say or make a sound to let them know, which is
Right.
has kind of been something that I've noticed as I've been doing it via Zoom.
Oh yeah, well that's good to have that verbal because if I'm interviewing somebody for like I've done radio stories before and like if I'm standing in front of someone with a recorder, I don't have to like say yeah, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I can just like nod my head vigorously while keeping extreme eye contact with them while I'm just recording every word they say and I don't need to, you know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing you're saying with like Zoom. So,
So my question for you is it's a little different because like you're on the print side, so
uh-huh.
your actual job is you can sit there and have whatever conversations you want, and then you get to go back and kind of rehash it and write out your story.
Right.
By doing the podcast, it's real time, like you
Hmm.
kind of have to it's a different operation.
Oh
And
yeah.
so for you, I guess I'm curious on what's been the biggest struggle, or what have you seen yourself working on the most via doing like the podcast versus maybe your journalist job?
Well, when I'm talking to somebody for the newspaper, I'm generally driving at the story I'm writing and I'm trying to get there in the quickest way possible because I know I'm going to have to go back and transcribe everything and pick out the important parts. So I'm just really trying to get them to the point and get out of there as quickly as I can a lot of the times, just for efficiency's sake. If I'm talking to like two or three people for each story, it's like I can't sit here for an hour like I do on my podcast and just extrapolate on these ideas, without a time limit. It's like the podcast. I'm not going back and transcribing this. I'm not trying to fit it into a story. I'm not trying to compare it with other sources. It's just it is the thing. It's happening.
So you're much more relaxed. You're much
Yes,
more
100%. Yeah.
wherever it goes with the podcast.
Right.
Like
Well,
you're not
that's
trying
kind of
to.
that's the freedom with the format. I think that's what initially I think just attracted me to it because it's like you're right, you get these in-depth, long form. I don't want a sound bite. I want the whole, I don't want a snack. I want the meal. I want the feast. Give me the whole course, all the courses. Give me all the courses. You know what I mean? Like I don't want a snack size thing.
So, for instance, yeah, there was a reporter who asked the Yankees manager a week ago, because they were in the midst of a losing streak. He goes, "Do you think the team's getting used to losing?"
Mm,
Like, that's
wow.
the dumbest question you could ever ask.
Hmm.
And that's the kind of shit that I'm like, you're getting paid probably really good money to go and ask those type of questions.
Right, right.
The
Absolutely.
my favorite thing interviewing coaches, kids, because most kids have never done an interview until I do it with them. But when I interview coaches, especially people who have been doing it a long time, one of my greatest things was I interviewed Jeff Pearlman, New York Times bestselling author,
Yeah.
wrote a
Shout
book,
out.
whatever. And I interviewed him, and him and Bob Kravitz, and they both said, "Wow, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that
Hmm.
before."
See?
That is the biggest compliment I
For
think for
sure.
anybody when you're interviewing somebody, that you can say that, because it's
Hmm.
like I consider myself an amateur at this stuff, but I got these guys who do it. When you're talking about Jeff Probst, Bob Kravitz, guys like who are in that industry, like they spend their lives interviewing people, so it's like they know a good question, and when they tell you that's a good question, that's not bullshit. They're literally saying that's a really good question, which is a badge of honor for me.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. But going back to these coaches, though, I want to I want to talk about some of the ones that maybe. Which was the one that went winless?
Coach Arnold at Tri Central.
Shout out to them for never giving up. You know what I mean? I appreciate you and you also for coming back every week and be like, where are we finding the bright spots here? Because it's like you to just keep coming back over and over and again. But I did, even in their own ways, weren't these the kids that didn't even know the positions or whatever in the game and like they didn't know the basics by the end of the year they did. So that's kind of a victory in and of itself.
Bless Coach Arnold. He was one of them that I didn't dread interviewing him, but I was kind of felt because there was very seldom a lot of good things to talk about because this is a results based game and we got to talk about results. I have to recap your week where you guys got beat 22-2. Like we've got to talk about it. Like it sucks, but he was a person who I think from the get go acknowledged that this season was judged based off wins and losses. And so we talked about other things. We talked about, hey, where has this team grown from 2 months ago? Where is this, what's better this? Knowing that, hey, we're not going to win games, but we're making strides. So it's cool for me because I plan to continue to do that show, do the coaches show, and I hope in another year or two we're talking about them competing for a sectional title or something like that, and I can kind of be like, I was at the ground floor when this all started.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Now you're going to do this for years to come, I guess. You're planning on doing this again?
I mean, they gave me an award, man. I guess I got to keep doing it.
You got to keep doing it.
Doing the coach's show. So I think I've got to navigate it a little bit differently doing the coach's show because for baseball, there's games every day except Sunday. So Sunday is probably where that's going to stick. I have to schedule and do better about doing teams because I feel although I did the coach's show every Sunday, it was probably the season that was a little most chaotic, and I probably interviewed the least amount of teams. So it's important for me to realize, why I do this. It's for the kids. As much as it is cool to talk coaches in baseball and stuff like that. The goal to do this is to interview kids. So I've got to schedule a little bit better. I got to kind of organize a little bit better.
Well, I mean, it was a wild year for everyone. So, I mean, I don't think you can be held that accountable for being.
Well, I mean, it was a year ago. I was in a radio studio doing it, and now I'm doing it from my basement at the house, doing it via Zoom, which I mean has really kind of opened things up for me. I feel like I can kind of cover more kids. I feel like everybody's a little more comfortable. Everybody really like doing it live and in a studio, but kind of with how things are now, I've parted ways with the radio station. I'm doing things on my own, and it's going to be the way I go forward until I can kind of work out some other things to maybe finding a spot in Kokomo who wants to come and let me do the show at a location.
So, would you keep going with the Zoom then into the future? How is Zoom working out in general? Do you think it's comparable to talking live, or do you like live more, or?
I love talking live to people in person. I really do enjoy that. I think it's helped. There's a lot of kids who are really nervous to do this, and I think Zoom has allowed them to be a little more comfortable because they're at home or they might be with some friends doing it together, that kind of thing, versus coming to the studio. We got the Facebook Live going, and it's live. They're meeting me for the first time in a lot of instances, so it's really easy for them to be nervous. There has been a level of comfortability. You just deal with tech issues as far as Zoom goes, but as a whole, I think it's worked. It's allowed me to keep doing what I've had been doing, and until things change and I can get into a place that'll allow me to bring people in and record it that way, Zoom's probably the way to go for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But how do you think these kids are adjusting to life post? I mean, I hate to say post-pandemic because it's still out there, but as the world reopens, I guess, and teams are getting back to more normal schedules, how much do you think kids lost, student athletes?
Talking to a lot of kids this year, especially like juniors and seniors and stuff like that, they realized what was lost, especially with the spring season last year getting canceled. So I think there's a good chunk of people who have the mindset of being very appreciative of what they have and taking full advantage of the seasons. I hope that kind of continues. I hope it's not just like a short-lived, like, for this year. Like, I appreciate every moment you got, because in most cases you got 4 years and it's done. And most of the kids that I talk to really kind of got a little more focused and appreciative of, and maybe enjoying the little things. I heard more kids say this year that they just enjoyed practice. I hated practice. Nobody likes practice. But these kids are generally just enjoying the time that they have with everybody, because I think after losing a season and kind of getting robbed, I think they realize, nothing's promised. Between it, like, you're already worrying about injuries and stuff like that, and you have a pandemic come and completely take away a season. And there were some teams last year who could have made some really good runs, could have potentially been some state qualifying teams, and they didn't have that opportunity. So it's definitely changed perceptions, and I've been impressed to see such young people. Not everybody's created equal, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's still some kids who just don't get it and still act the way that they do. But to see a lot of kids in just the way they handled themselves and the way that they kind of perceive things going forward, I was impressed, man. It gives me a little bit of hope for our future.
Mm-hmm. But how do you think colleges, recruiting wise, do you think that they have taken this into account? Do you think that kids maybe missed some of their shots because of this?
I think,
Because they were still recruiting, I imagine, through the whole thing. I mean, it's just because they
yeah,
couldn't see new games, right? I mean,
the problem was, here's the way I look at it. If you were a senior last year and you lost your season and you lost an opportunity to go play in college, if you were hoping on that one season to be it, you probably didn't have that great of a shot in the first place, if I'm being honest. Most of these kids who want to play college ball or in some way, shape, or form are playing travel ball. They're playing year round. They're playing during the summer, blah, blah, blah. There's plenty of opportunity to see you, and if a school wants you, they'll get you. So if you want to blame a missed season on a missed opportunity to go play college ball, I think you might be a little delusional in that regard. But I know a lot of kids that I've been covering for multiple seasons, they all went and played, and they missed a season last year, and they're fine. I saw so many kids committing to playing college athletics this year, especially coming off a pandemic year and missed season and everything like that. So I don't know. I mean, recruiting for colleges and everything, they had to do things differently too. They couldn't go watch anybody live, so they're just looking for they're looking for all the old film and everything they can possibly get too. So, like I said, if you wanted to play and you were worth playing, they found you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But let's talk about professional sports. We were discussing this last night, and okay, so tell me what has changed, because I always thought in baseball the pitchers would spit on their hands, or is that outlawed? And they tell me what's happening with the balls and the substances.
So this year more than ever, and apparently it's been going on for a while. Baseball is cracking down on the substances that pitchers use. So the big thing that I've seen this year, it's called like spider tack or something like that. And pitchers are using it on their fingers, and it's helping spin rate. It's helping, the rotation on the ball and everything like that. So Major League Baseball now has decided they want to crack down on it. This isn't something new. You go back a couple of years ago, and there was a Cardinals game where a pitcher literally like spiked the ball in the dirt and it bounced up, and it stuck to the catcher gear. So the problem's been relevant. Just now, I think baseball, Major League Baseball is the worst sport when it comes to marketing itself in the United States. I think it's god awful. It's terrible. They do a poor job. They want 15 to 20 runs scored every game. They want offense because they think the average fan is an idiot and they don't appreciate a good game. They just think offense, offense, offense. Well, pitchers have been pretty good over the course of the last couple of years, and offense, I think, has struggled in a lot of ways. And so Major League Baseball wants more offense. So what do? You're going to handicap the pitchers. You're going to now say, hey, guys, I know we've let you get away with this for the last few years, and now you have to stop. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like the pitchers, they're not even hiding it now. They're like, you're going to let us do this for years, and now you're stopping us. I'm like, so it's cheating to me, but I'm also like an old school fundamental guy when it comes to this. But I don't know. Yeah. Major League Baseball had a problem with steroids, but they have no problem with pitchers doctoring the ball until it affects the offense. So it's a problem. I'm curious to see how it plays out, because you already had a pitcher flat out say he hurt himself because he had to change the way he pitched because he could no longer use the sticky stuff. That's an admittance of guilt to me right there.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's interesting that, so you don't really care so much about this, or do you? How much do you care personally?
As I've gotten older, I've had to let things go. I would love to sit here and talk about the glory days and all that, but the times are changing, and I realize that. So if you've let it go for so long and you knowingly knew, by changing it now, you're essentially screwing a certain group of people who, because it's affecting one thing, you're now punishing them as a whole. So I don't know. I'm a little torn. It's been okay for the last few years, which I thought was bullshit in the first place. I was like, you should have been covering this from the get-go. But it wasn't hurting their bottom line, or maybe it wasn't affecting them the way it is affecting them now. But baseball has an image problem. They're trying to get more offense. It's all connected that way. The average fan, they think, does not want to see a no-hitter or a perfect game. As a baseball traditionalist, 100%. If I'm watching a perfect game or a no-hitter, I am locked in. I'm not changing the channel. But they think the average baseball fan's an idiot. So, hey, what do I know?
But I remember we've talked about this before, and you are anti-doping, and you think that is wrong and against the purity of the game. But
I agree.
You seem to be a little bit more permissive since they've been permissive, right?
I'm still anti-steroids.
Right, but the sticky stuff, yeah.
I don't love the using the substances by pitchers, but if you're going to look away and let this happen for an X amount of time, but now that it's affecting, the offenses and stuff like that, or the production numbers, now you want to crack down on it. If you want to say something's wrong, then correct it from the beginning. Don't turn a blind eye and let shit happen, and then all of a sudden, well, now it's affecting something else. We have to address this now. No, it was wrong 3 or 4 years ago, however long it's been going on, but it didn't bother you then. It bothers you now. It's just like you punishing your kids. You're going to let your kids be an asshole or, do bad behavior, then all of a sudden, like, okay, now I'm drawing the line. Like, it's...
Right.
Your kids and baseball players and athletes, they're going to do what you let them get away with.
Well, and, this gives them more control, I assume. If it gives them a higher spin rate, that means it's more accurate, right?
Well, there's a funny statistic that goes along with that, is they actually say it sacrifices control, because you're doing it more for the spin rate, because they say hit batters is up this year compared to like
Oh,
5 or 10. So there's more of a that you're sacrificing, like I said, the control for the spin rate. And the
Mhm.
spin rate is what's making everything look so nasty. It's making, the sliders go way faster. It's making, the cutters go in harder. I mean, it's the spin rate is what the batters are having the biggest problem with. So
Gotcha.
that kind of explains it there. But
Uh-huh.
I found it an interesting correlation that the control goes down and more guys are being hit.
Hmm. But what do you think baseball needs to do differently? Obviously, there's people that, they have all these suggestions about, oh, I don't know. Didn't they they already took the mound down, right? Because it used to be up higher, and then they took it down, or did they? Or they just talk about that?
So like they're trying stupid ass rules. They've got this rule now that when it goes to extra innings, you start with a runner on second.
Hmm.
It's stupid. Everything is geared towards offense. They want baseball parks if they want baseball parks to be hitter friendly. So they don't want you to have an outfield wall that is 370 feet or further all the way around. They want you to have some short corners. They want you to have, a hitter friendly ballpark, which is absurd to me. So they're talking about banning the shift. Like, baseball is so annoying because they think, like, they don't know who their audience is, yet they continue to constantly try to change shit, and that's what's bothersome. And I think that's what a lot of the traditional baseball fans are irritated about. It's like, stop changing the rules. Stop trying to cater the game to the people who don't care about baseball. Do you
Hmm.
do you think? Okay, for instance, most people in America don't give two shits about soccer, and so you know what soccer did? Or hockey the same way. They eliminated ties. They went to shootouts, or that you go to overtime, then you go to shootouts, so you have a winner. People still don't care about soccer. So
Hmm.
do you think by increasing the average runs per game to an extra 3 or 4 runs a game is automatically going to make somebody go, you know what? I want to like baseball. No, I've said this before, and people might think it's a dick comment or whatever. Like, baseball is a smart sport, and not everybody can get it. Like, you have to want to enjoy it. You have to want to understand it. If you want to sit there and watch nonstop action, then watch basketball or baseball or basketball or football. That's fine. But baseball it's difficult. It's hard. You're a Hall of Famer if you fail 70% of the time as you're hitting. Like, it is what it is. It's not made for everybody.
Hmm. But do you think it can survive into the future? Because I don't know. It seems like I feel like the fan base, no offense, but does seem to be older compared to basketball, for example. Skews pretty young, I think.
This is where I think Major League Baseball has a problem because they don't market their product. The greatest baseball player in the game plays at 10 o'clock at night every night because he plays on the West Coast.
Hmm.
So why would you not have as many possible afternoon games when they're on the road? Like, when they're on the East Coast or they're in the Midwest or whatever, why would you not have a primetime game every possible time? No,
Hmm.
when they play 9 o'clock or later virtually every game. Your best player in the game. How are you going to market that? How are people going to know if he's like? People don't know who the home run leader is or who the best player is because they never get to see him play.
Hmm.
And they don't have advertisements. They don't have commercials. They don't have their best players going on talk shows. Like, they're not doing this.
Hmm.
So, like, Mike Trout is considered the best baseball player in the game, but he plays for the LA Angels and he's never on primetime. Javi Baez, El Mago, one of the most electrifying players in the game. As a Cubs fan, I know who he is. Maybe a few other fan bases know who he is. But why would you not put these people who have personality? The problem with baseball is they don't like people who have personalities. They don't like players
Hmm.
who want to do a bat flip or want to show this personality and really show a character, because then at that point, they're trying to be bigger than the game. No, they're just having fun.
Hmm. Well, I would say, as somebody who, how much attention I pay to sports, I would probably say I know the names of more basketball players than any other sport.
Well, that's because
Uh,
ESPN has a hard-on for LeBron James.
True, true. But I also watched the Up in Smoke, all the Smoke rather, podcast with. Do you ever see that? It's on Showtime.
Uh,
Oh, it's
that,
good. It's Matt Barnes and
okay.
oh, who's the other guy? Anyway, you would know who they are. Anyway, but yeah, no, they've had a fair number of people. Interestingly, I watched. I started watching one episode with it said Isaiah Thomas, and I thought it was going to be Isaiah Thomas, like the Isaiah Thomas that I grew up with, but apparently it's another basketball player named Isaiah Thomas who's no relation to Isaiah Thomas.
Yes, and so much. I mean, you're not a basketball.
So I watched like for half an hour. I'm like, when's he going to talk about the Pistons? He never talked about the Pistons yet.
So I remember you're not a basketball fan or anything like that, but you were still into the Last Dance, the Jordan.
Yeah, it was a great documentary series.
And
100%.
I don't think we've talked since you watched that.
Oh yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. I thought it could have gone on much longer. I would love a Rodman only. You could do 10 episodes on Rodman just alone. That guy's had a life. But yeah, no, that was a blast from the past. I remembered a strangely lot amount of those games, like with the Jazz, and yeah, I remember just going crazy when the shot, it's like called the shot or whatever, right? Isn't it? I remember that vividly, and I was like dancing across my living room for for some reason I don't even know. But yeah, that was great. So
I'll tell you the one thing I took away from that, and just as like as a competitor and stuff like that, like when Michael Jordan sat there and says, "Winning has a cost."
Oh yeah.
Like, because people talk about it. He's like, "Did I get in people's ass? Yeah." He's like, "Did I do this? Yeah." He's like, "Well, the people don't like me? Yeah." He goes, "But we won." He goes,
Right.
"The goal was achieved. Winning has a cost." And that's a fact. If you want to be good at anything, whether it's, your job or sports or anything like that, like, you make sacrifices.
100%.
And Jordan had no problem doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, another interesting takeaway was I don't remember what player this was, but he made up in his mind that someone had like slighted him in some way, and when it wasn't even true, and he just like totally invented this beef because he needed that like fire inside of him to be like, I'm gonna prove this person wrong, and the person was probably, they were just like, oh, what? Like,
Oh yeah.
but that's kind of, I do think there's a fair amount of like, I'm gonna show all of you. Like, I think that gets things done. I know that's inspired me to do things in my life, to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do it even harder.
You need a level, like, if you want to exceed at anything, you need somebody to rub you wrong. You need somebody to drive you, because I mean, without a struggle, there really is no real level of achievement, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you don't go through the rough times, you don't appreciate it when it's good. Like, if you didn't, do the work to win the awards wouldn't mean anything.
Right.
Like, if everything came easy. So it's like, that's why you appreciate that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Well, one quote, and I don't remember which coach said this on your show, but they were like, "The pressure is a privilege," and I was like, "Yeah, that's very true." Because I mean, you get to this other. It's always the thing of, I always think, once I get this one thing, I'll be fine. I don't need to do anything else. And then I do the thing, and then it's like, well, that's not enough. I can't just have it be that. I can't just get here and go boo and then be gone. I have to do the next thing. You know what I mean? And you never like, and of course you have to appreciate where you're at too, but it's always like, it's the goals keep changing. I don't just want, I won 3 awards this year. I want to win 4 next year. Throwing it out there. I don't want, once you get that, you're like, yeah, I need more of this. I need whatever's next after that. So
Oh, you bet your ass I want to repeat as E-District Media of the Year.
Who else is coming for that? They're not getting it. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, there's a Media Person of the Year. Like, there's a couple different like awards they give out for each district. So I'm just trying to get what I can.
Sure. 100%. Absolutely.
You know what's funny though? You talk about, you're talking to these coaches and stuff like that. Like, the generation of kid and athlete has changed. I had one coach who literally is like, the kids have to want it. He goes, I can't make them. He's like, it's like they're just happy to be here. And that is a wild mindset. That is a wild, like, in today's age, that the kids are just like, hey, wins and losses, we're just out here having fun. Like, no, you play to win the game.
Right.
This isn't Little League. This isn't rec ball. Like, you're playing high school sports. And this is where I think, like, we're to the level now. If you're playing high school sports, like, coaches can be fired for your lack of success.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we're I mean, not to the level of like college or pros or anything like that, but high school coaches can lose their jobs based off poor performing. So if you have kids who are literally just happy to be here, that is a wild generational thing. Like, I don't get it, but hey, to each his own. But not all programs are equal. I look at a Western. He doesn't have that problem. Like, those kids, the expectations are high. They go in there expect to win. I think a little bit with them this year, they got upset by Northwestern in the sectional, but like, I think a little bit of it was, there's expectations and there was a lackadaisical arrogance, so to speak. Like, they just figured they were going to walk through and win, and it bit them. But then on the other end, you have kids at the varsity level, like Tri-Central, who don't know the number positions. They don't know the pitcher's number 1 and the catcher's number 2 and so forth and so on. They didn't know that. So, like, not all programs are created equal. And the biggest thing is creating a culture. You have to have a culture. You have to have established coaches who are at places for a long time. You are not going to have successful programs if you have a revolving door of coaches. That is what I've learned.
So the ones you've seen have the most success have the most stability and least turnover, and
they have longevity
at the top.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah,
that makes sense.
Well, because look, too, you look at the Westerns. It's not like they just have a huge talent pool. These kids work their ass off. They play baseball year round. They're playing travel ball. They're putting the work in. You go to, say, a Taylor, who they have kids who could be really good, but you only have 1 or 2 of them who play travel ball. Well, when I'm looking at Western and 90% of their teams playing travel ball and playing ball year round, and Taylor only, 1/10 of their roster is playing travel ball, who do you think ends up being better when baseball season rolls around? The people who are most dedicated to it.
Yeah. If you want something bad enough, there's no off days. It's like you just got to get from point A to point B, and it's like whatever it takes to get there is what it takes to get there.
And what's funny too is like, I know a couple kids who are on the Western baseball team, but they also play tennis and basketball and everything like that at a high level. They play on the varsity. So after varsity basketball practices and games, they were going to work on pitching, and they were going to like training for baseball. So, like, it's way different than when we were in school, where like literally like football season, you played football, basketball, you played basketball, baseball, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, it's different now. Like, there is no excuse for kids today to not be successful. There are so many outlets, there are so many opportunities, and if you're not taking advantage of them, you can't sit there and cry and whine on why you don't get why you weren't successful.
I think that's true for a lot of things nowadays. Really, it's like there's so many more. It's what you make of it. The tools are all around you. The opportunities are all around you. Are you ready to make the most of them? So
there has been no easier time to create your own brand, your own content. Because look at you, Rob. Look at me. Like, we completely. The one thing I take pride in too is like we build our audiences 100% on our own.
Absolutely.
Based off what we do, who we talk to, what we like, our content is what has grown our brand.
Yep.
10, 15, 20 years ago, we wanted to be able to do what we're doing. You were literally going to have to just publish work. You're going to have to do print. There was no media, social media to do the things that we do now. And anybody can do that. Literally. There's 10-year-olds on TikTok who have brands who are millionaires. Like there is no easier time. I don't want to hear excuses for anything.
No way. Absolutely not. Yeah, I used to have to record things on the VHS back in the 90s off of TV. Don't get me
Exactly.
started. Speaking of which, when's that 90s podcast coming back? What's up with that?
I think, I'm going to talk to John about it tomorrow, but I do think we're going to probably get that going back in July.
Oh
So
boy.
probably after the fourth holiday.
All right.
So
I've been refreshing the feed. I'm waiting.
I think we're gonna put out some summer series, and I'm really excited to talk about OJ. That's a
Oh
big one.
yeah, that's a huge one. I can't wait for that episode. I remember that. I was just thinking about that today. It was actually just the anniversary. I think today.
I saw the video of him on the Bronco driving. It's funny, man. I follow him on Twitter.
That's
And
wild. He's on Twitter.
dude, he is such an entertaining figure. Like
Mm,
he just has like that charm, that smoothness. And I sit here and I go, I follow a murderer on
right.
Twitter.
100%.
I can't look away.
Right. Uh-huh.
He's always like, "Hey, yours truly," and I'm like, "Jesus! Like, you killed two people.
Right.
You're drawing six figures in retirement from the NFL. You're living in Vegas, golfing every day.
Really? He still gets his retirement from the NFL after all that?
God, he's a Hall of Famer. He draws, I think, 150 or 200K a year, and
No
he
way.
was collecting
Wow.
while he was in prison. He collected that while he was in prison in Nevada.
Wow. Goodness gracious. Well, he was Norberg on the Naked Gun movies. I used to love those. I,
It's wild, man. Just
yeah.
like we could all follow a murderer on Twitter.
Yeah, right. It's like Charles Manson having a TikTok or something like, which is probably what would happen today if he was out and
Mind
alive.
blown, man. Like it's just wild.
That's crazy, man. Yeah. So, well, we're near the end now, and I must ask you, what music have you been listening to lately?
What have I been listening to? The new Foo Fighters.
Oh, is it good? I haven't heard it yet.
It's a mixed bag. There's some things I really do enjoy on it. The new J. Cole.
Oh, okay. I'll check that out.
Dude,
I like the what's this group he has? Is it Dreamville? Is that him?
yeah. So
Okay.
so
Yeah, I've heard that.
his new album called The Off Season is really good. I think he is a superb lyricist, and just like he comes hard. Like I love it a lot.
Cool.
That's probably what I've been listening to the most. Like I said, the Foo Fighters album. I don't know if anything else is on my radar.
Yeah, I went back and listened to the first two Foo Fighters albums, which are my favorite, the other day, and it's just, man, just flawless. So good.
Yeah, they've got tour dates popping up. I'm hoping they swing through Indiana. We'll see.
Did you watch that documentary I sent you with him and Brian Johnson? That was really good.
I did. That's really good. He's got the show that he does with his mom, and they go around to artists and talk to artists and their moms and stuff like that. It's like from cradle to the stage or something like that. I haven't watched it yet. I think it's on Paramount.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, he talks about how they show the video too of him falling off the stage and breaking his leg, and then he goes back on the stage and the stage hand holds his leg in place as he plays the rest of the concert.
So,
that I gotta just how can you not respect Dave Grohl? Come on.
So he did that. He did that literally like a month before his U.S. tour.
Oh.
He did it like Glastonbury or some shit. And so he came and he had like a Game of Thrones stage.
That's hilarious.
And I saw that show. And like for a dude who had to sit in a chair for 2.5 hours, the energy that he brought was just phenomenal. And I think 2 years later he came back and he wasn't in the chair, he was healthy. And just the Foo Fighters are just like, if they come to town, I'm paying. Like there's no question about it. Like I'm gonna be there.
Well, if it's an outdoor show, I might have to bring the kids. I don't know if they're ready for loud rock concert like that, but maybe they are. I don't know. So.
Dude, man, if you haven't seen them, dude, I recommend it. You want to talk about a hell of a rock show. That's
yeah. I've had several friends tell me the same. It's on my bucket list for Sheezy. But well, thanks for coming back on, dude. It's pretty late, I know, for for you compared to what you're usually doing. But yeah, I hope you have a good day off here tomorrow and stuff. And thank you again for coming back on. It was a blast. So
it's always my pleasure, man. I appreciate always you inviting me and just enjoying the relationship and the camaraderie that we've grown over the years. So I appreciate you. Me
100%.
and Sig are actually heading to Atlanta here in another week.
What?
So yeah,
That's great.
The original Sounding Off crew is getting together to take a little road trip down to Atlanta to watch some baseball.
That's incredible. You guys got to keep the recorder rolling all the way to and from, because this could be a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas situation.
I might give him like the Sounding Off Instagram and like we're gonna document this for the 4 days.
You have to. I would. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, how do we not get to Atlanta and then have a video of us playing like in Jermaine Dupri's "Welcome to Atlanta"? Like
you have to. I think it's a loss somewhere.
We're walking into the stadium, like we have to have a video with that, right? I feel like it's a law.
Oh, 100%, absolutely. But well, have fun, and yeah, I'll be listening to whatever you do next for sure.
Man, I appreciate you. You're the man, Rob.
Cool. Have a good night. I'll talk to you later.
Later, buddy.
Okay, bye-bye.
Join the Rob Burgess Show mailing list. go to tinyletter.com/The Rob Burgess Show and type in your email address. Then respond to the automatic message. Also, please make sure to comment, follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, and review everywhere the podcast is available, including iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Twitter, Internet Archive, TuneIn, RSS, and now Spotify. The official website for the podcast is www.therobburgesshow.com. You can find out more about me by visiting my website, www.thisburgess.com. If you have something to say, record a voice memo on your smartphone and send it to therobburgessshow@gmail.com. Include voice memo in the subject line of the email. Also, if you want to call or text the show for any reason, the number is 317-674-3547. Until next time.